Okay, so we're back working on the beloved piece. When I came here, I just kind of did a double check to see if there was anything else that I'd missed out on. So I forgot that after I got the starter off yesterday, I had that connection clip to take off. So I popped that off, and as soon as I got it off, there was another little tab or whatever, a little push-in clip that was right there. It broke off. As soon as I got that done though, I was able to snake the harness out and around from underneath the motor mount and in between the oil cooler lines. And I brought it back up and around, and I managed to get it up into here, into this little space. And I taped it all off, and I marked it that it was for that side of the motor. As soon as that was done, I got the other pieces from back here on this side snaked up through that little hole right in there. These trans cooler lines were really fucking me over. I actually had to go underneath the motor and use a pry bar and try and wiggle and push the rest of those clips back, or those harness pieces. So those harnesses, they came like, this is part of the harness here. It came down, part of it went off that way, and then it wrapped around underneath the motor and back that way. It was all held together. So this is that whole harness. Right, so that's that plastic piece. So that one screws in. I think that one clips in somewhere, I'm not sure. But these are the two that came from the right side of the motor, from underneath of the motor mounts. And then this is the whole thing. Anywhere where there's tape, I was just trying to keep it together, or there's a clip there. This one came out really easy. That one was a bitch. I'll stick that back where I had it. When I took the starter off, I had to use a 1/2-inch drive. That's what I mean. So it's the same thing that a regular impact is. 1/2-inch drive. That's 3/8 drive. Right? 3/8 drive, 1/2-inch drive. Your regular sockets are 3/8 drive, other than that one. That's 1/4 inch. You're gonna want to use a 1/2-inch drive with an extension or two and a 13 mil. And so there's like a little 10 mil screw and plate that goes around the starter. So it'll kind of look like, well, flip it around. It'll look like that when you're underneath the truck, or this screw will be the other way. I had to take that off, and then the two 13s. So after you get the starter undone, that final clip removed, your whole harness pulled aside. I mean, I only pulled the harness aside because this is my first time doing it. And I want to make sure that there's not a whole lot in the way. But as soon as you get that starter out and that little plastic plate out, that cover, you need to take off your flywheel bolts. I'm using 1/2-inch drive. 15/16 socket. And I'm turning the flywheel. There should be 4 bolts. That's how it usually is. Oh shit. That's how it usually is. I can zoom in down there. Be able to see a little bit better. So I already took one out. So I will turn the flywheel clockwise. It's kind of a tough bitch. I can't, sorry, my camera skills are not the best. There you go. That's an 18 mil. It's an 18 millimeter. You can get a socket on it. Kind of go over that with you and show you how to do it when I get there. From underneath, take a 1/2-inch drive breaker, put it up through this way, through this way. If your lines are loose, you can move them back and forth only a little bit. Use the breaker bar to get that loose. And then you can come up through your wheel well and use a 3/8 drive ratchet with an 18. Be able to loosen it off from right there. Awesome. So I got all the 18 mil torque converter bolts out. They're just short little guys. They're like that long. Didn't take very much, but yeah, you'd want to break them loose from down there first. And then once you're done that, you just come up through your passenger side fender well, and you can get a 3/8 drive ratchet in through here with, I'll show you the extension I had. It's about that. And then you can just kind of fit it in right back in there and work at it. Once you get the initial break done, it's not that hard to get them out. But now I think I'm gonna do all the transmission bolts. So those are all 15s, I think. Pretty sure they're all 15s. And by looks of it, I might be able to get a breaker bar on a few of them. But if I can't, then I'll be using a fucking wrench. And that's gonna be fun. So if I have to use a wrench on some of them, I'll let you know which ones I gotta do that on. So now that I've moved on to all the transmission bolts, I can tell you right away, you don't need anything special to take them off. Yeah, 15 mil wrench and a 15 mil socket wrench with a 3/8 drive. You can use the socket wrench on this side of the motor for that one and that one. Easy. You'll have room. You just need a deep socket, and eventually you can turn them out by hand. The ones on this side of the motor, on the driver's side, were a bitch. You're gonna need the wrench for that one. And then you have 2 more 15 mils that are at the bottom of the motor. One of them holds on the oil cooler line, pretty sure, or no, transcooler line. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's the, am I fucking right? Pretty sure. Oh, yeah, no, those might be transcooler lines. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, those hold on the trans cooler lines. It's a 15 mil bolt, and then you have one on the other side. They're right by the oil pan. Can't miss them. They come out pretty easy if you use a 15 mil wrench. You might even be able to use a 15 mil socket wrench. I don't know, but for up here, you have that to take off, and that is a 13, and then underneath of that is the 15. So you have to take the 13 mil nut off to get the 15 mil bolt out, and that holds on your oil cooler lines. So you get that out with a wrench, maybe even a socket wrench, I don't know. I'm not going to do it just because I have the wrenches with me. Then you have one more that's right there that I'm pretty sure is the exact same thing, but I don't see any more back here. So just those that are left, and then I'm on to the motor mounts, which I don't really want to take the mounts off like that. I want to take them off from inside. Those are also 15s, pretty sure. Let's take a 15 mil wrench and find out. They'd all be the same. Yeah, 15. A lot of shit on this truck is it's either a 7, a 10, a 13, or a 15. There is some other shit that's imperial, but most of it's metric. You know, I mean, the only exception to the metric outside of everything else I just talked about was the 18, and that was for the torque converter bolts. But I'm gonna keep going. Get back to when I get onto the motor mounts. It took me a little bit longer than I wanted it to. I did get them out. So this one was right in the middle. So I was right. It's a 13 mil nut on the top, and then you get a 15 mil that you have to use. So if you end up taking those two hoses off that are kind of clipped into both the sides right there, that'll come off really easy. This one had me fucked up because I guess it was for the fuel line and for vacuum line, or maybe fuel return line even. So the 13 came off and I couldn't get the steel bracket off that it had. So I just kept on loosening off the 15, and it just kept on pushing at that bracket. Now that pissed me right off. I was having such a hard time. So I tightened it back up, left this off. I ended up taking a pry bar and prying that fucking metal bracket off, and then I was finally able to get that out. But in my mind, it took me way too long to realize what I had to do. I could have been a lot faster at that. But now all the bolts on the transmission are undone. There's not a single one left. So now it's on to motor mounts, and maybe even seeing if I can get my dad to help me fabricate a plate for the top of this. Then we can take this off and have a way to pull the motor out. But after I get the motor mounts undone, I gotta block up transmission, because once we pull the motor, it's gonna want to drop the tranny down. So I gotta make it so that that doesn't go anywhere. I don't know if I'll be doing that today or what, but it's kind of a two-man job to take the hood off. I have it marked out on the hinges. I don't know if I want to take those off yet and try pulling the hood, just because that's definitely a two-guy job. But I can undo the motor mounts. It's probably 5 o'clock right now. Oh, honest to God, I love working on old stuff, new stuff, anything that has a motor. I love working on it. But it gets really, really frustrating when you get really, really far into it and you don't take a second to take a breath. That's probably the most important part, is knowing when you have to stop yourself and just get your mind out of it. Figure out what you got to do. That's now the second time that's happened to me on this. I'm surprised it hasn't happened to me more. But okay, motor mounts. I'll figure it out, and once I have one side off, I'll tell you how I'm going to do it. And I'm back. So these little cocksuckers, 15 mil. There's 8 of them, 4 on each side. If you're gonna do this, do yourself a favor and see this heat shield? You see how there's little rivets there? I didn't mean for that to happen. There's 2 rivets on each side of each motor mount. Just go and take a pry bar, a sharp pry bar, and a hammer, and punch those fuckers out. Made my life so much easier. I was trying to, figure it out earlier this week, and just now I decided, well, let's try it. Huge time saver right there. So I have all 8 out, and that's it. This big mess is ready to be pulled. Hood's got to come off, and that has to get rolled over top of the truck. So I might see if I can even just get the hood off by myself tonight and crane that thing over, and maybe even just set the hood down on top just to keep everything covered. And then tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, if not tomorrow, it'll be Monday, because we have Monday off. I think it's Truth and Reconciliation Day on Monday. So I will be pulling this motor out, and it will be out by the end of the weekend. Thank God. And then I can start tearing into it. The biggest fuck around. Now I get to bag up all these and label them. Maybe go eat something. Go over some of the recordings that I did. And maybe finally put a video together. By the time you're seeing this, the motor will probably be in the shop.